Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your sources and unpack the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight. Today we're diving into a life story that spans extremes, from unimaginable luxury to ultimate sacrifice. It's the story of a figure whose name might not be globally recognized, but whose impact profoundly shaped history.
We're drawing today from the vivid accounts in Musab ibn Umayr, Islam's first ambassador and martyr, by Khalid Muhammad Khalid. Our mission for this deep dive is to explore the surprising journey of this extraordinary individual and truly understand why his story is considered a sharaf, a profound honor or mark of nobility, not just for a specific community, but really for all humanity.
Okay, let's unpack this and jump right into Musab's early life in Mecca. Imagine Mecca at a time when its elite lived lives of extravagant luxury. Musab ibn Umayr wasn't just wealthy. He was known as Gura Fitian Quraysh, literally the flower of Quraysh youth.
Right.
The historical accounts paint a picture of someone incredibly handsome, always impeccably dressed, described as the most fragrant in Mecca.
Yeah, he was truly the darling of Mecca, the life of every party, the pearl of its gatherings and forums, as the source puts it.
Right.
What's truly insightful here is how Musab's privileged upbringing, rather than insulating him, seems to have ironically set the stage for an even more radical transformation later on.
How so?
Well, he had everything material Mecca could offer, every comfort imaginable yet. As we'll see, that wasn't enough. It couldn't satisfy a deeper kind of longing. It underscores that profound spiritual shifts aren't limited by one's material comfort. Sometimes they blossom most powerfully when there's that stark contrast, between external luxury and an internal void.
That makes sense. So despite his youth and this seemingly perfect life, Musab became deeply attentive to the message being preached by Prophet Muhammad.
Exactly. Mecca at that time was consumed by discussions and often criticisms of the prophet.
Right, who proclaimed God had sent him as a bearer of good news and a warning, inviting people to worship the one God.
And Musab, who was the jewel of any gathering, apparently listened more intently than most. He heard the prophet and his early followers were meeting away from public scrutiny at Dar al-Arqam.
Tell us about that pivotal moment when Musab finally made his way there. The sources describe his conversion as incredibly vivid. What exactly happened?
It's quite dramatic, yeah. His eagerness and this real longing led him to Dar al-Arqam one evening, seemingly without hesitation.
Okay.
The moment he took his place and the Quranic verses flowed from the prophet's heart, reaching his ears and heart, Musab describes feeling this overwhelming joy, almost like he was flying.
Wow.
Then the prophet's gentle hand touched his chest, and he felt a profound tranquility, deep as the ocean, just settle within him.
So an almost instantaneous shift.
Completely. The young man who had just accepted Islam seemed to possess a wisdom that completely surpassed his youth and a determination that could, genuinely change the course of time. It wasn't gradual, it was sudden, profound.
That's a rapid and profound transformation.
Yeah.
But with such a profound internal shift, often comes an equally formidable external challenge, particularly from family.
Yes, absolutely. Musab faced his mother, Qanas bint Malik. She was a woman of immense and, frankly, feared strength.
The sources state Musab feared no power on earth as much as his mother's opposition.
Yeah, it says even if Mecca, with all its idols and dignitaries, turned into this terrifying force, he could have dealt with it. But his mother's hostility, that was truly unbearable for him.
And this is a common thread in stories of conversion, the personal cost.
Definitely. Musab knew his mother's temperament, so he initially kept his conversion secret. He continued visiting Dar al-Arqam discreetly.
Trying to keep the peace.
Right. He was at peace with his faith, but avoiding her wrath. But as the text reminds us, in those days, no secret was safe in Mecca. Quraysh's eyes and ears were everywhere.
And inevitably, the discovery came. Osman bin Talha saw him entering Dar al-Arqam.
And later saw him praying exactly like the prophet. Yeah. So Osman raced, faster than the desert wind, the source says, to inform Musab's mother, delivering news that just completely shattered her composure.
This led to a dramatic confrontation then.
A very dramatic one. Musab stood before his mother, relatives, Meccan dignitaries, reciting the Quran with unwavering certainty and firmness.
And how did she react?
The sources describe his words cleansing their hearts, filling them with wisdom, honor, justice, piety. His mother actually attempted to strike him, a harsh blow.
Oh, wow.
But her hand, which had shot out like an arrow, somehow relaxed and recoiled. She was overcome by this new light that seemed to increase the handsomeness and splendor of his face, radiating a majesty that commanded respect.
So his presence disarmed her.
It seems so. That calmness, that conviction, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What kind of inner composure allows someone to disarm intense anger purely through their presence?
Yeah.
The sources suggest Musab's newfound tranquility, gained at conversion, radiated outward. It really highlights how genuine conviction isn't just what you say, but the calm authority with which you embody your beliefs.
It often diffuses hostility where aggression would just escalate things.
Precisely.
But while her motherhood might have spared him from physical harm, she still sought to avenge her old gods, right?
She did. She retaliated by imprisoning him in a remote part of their house, securely locked away. He remained captive until he heard that some believers were migrating to Abyssinia.
Ah, the first migration for safety.
Exactly. Upon hearing this news, he cunningly outwitted his mother and guards, slipped away, and went to Abyssinia. A migrant returning to God, as the text puts it.
He would stay there with his fellow believers, later return to Mecca.
And then migrate to Abyssinia a second time with other companions on the Prophet's orders. His experience of faith just continued to assert its superiority everywhere he went. He had truly reformed his life.
This period truly embodies that radical personal transformation we talked about earlier.
It really does. We read about a day he emerged to meet some Muslims gathered around the Prophet, and when they saw him, they literally lowered their heads. Their eyes welled up.
Why? What did they see?
They saw him wearing a patched, worn-out garment, and it just made them remember his former image before Islam, when his clothes were like, fresh garden flowers, radiating brilliance and fragrance.
That's incredibly poignant. To go from the peak of luxury, the Gucci of his day, you might say,
Right.
to a worn-out garment. What was the Prophet's reaction to seeing him like that?
The Prophet himself observed him with wise, grateful, and loving glances. A majestic smile appeared on his lips as he said, "I saw this Musab, and there was no youth in Mecca more pampered by his parents than he." Yet he left all that out of love for God and his messenger. It highlights the immense personal sacrifice Musab willingly made. He severed ties with his past life, the source of his wealth, for his beliefs.
And his mother.
His mother, having despaired of his return to their old ways, completely cut off all the luxuries she used to lavish upon him, refused to feed him even.
Wow. Their final farewell must have been intense.
Extremely poignant. This was after his return from Abyssinia. She tried to imprison him again. He vowed that if she tried, he would kill anyone she sought help from to imprison him.
He really meant it.
She knew the sincerity of his resolve, yeah. So she bid him farewell weeping, and he bid her farewell weeping. It was this moment that revealed her astonishing persistence in disbelief and his even greater resolve in faith.
What did they say?
Well, as she expelled him from her house, she said, "Go on your way. I am no longer your mother." He approached her and said, "O my mother, I am your advisor, and I am compassionate towards you. So bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is his servant and his messenger."
And her response.
Immediate and angry. "By the stars, I will not enter your religion, for it would degrade my opinion and weaken my intellect."
So definitive.
Absolutely. So Musab definitively left the abundant luxury he lived in, preferring hardship and destitution. The elegant, perfumed youth was now seen wearing only the roughest clothes, often going hungry for days.
Yet his character seemed transformed.
Completely. The sources describe his soul as refined by the sublimity of belief and radiating the light of God, transforming him into a person of immense dignity and awe. It's a powerful statement about where true worth comes from.
And then this pivotal moment arrived.
Yeah.
The Prophet's extraordinary choice of Musab for the greatest mission of that time.
Yes, to be his ambassador to Medina.
His critical mission was to teach the Ansar, the Medinan helpers, who had embraced Islam and pledged allegiance.
Right, the ones from the Pledge of Aqaba.
Invite others to Islam and prepare Medina to become the vital base for the future migration, the Hijrah, that foundational move.
And what's fascinating here is the Prophet's foresight, his discernment. He chose Musab, despite him being younger and maybe less prominent than some others.
Why him?
For his wisdom, his good character, and his ability to lead this vital endeavor. It wasn't about social standing or age. It was about character, conviction, and crucially, a diplomatic temperament.
Musab carried this trust, relying on the sound judgment and noble character God had bestowed upon him. He truly conquered the hearts of Medina.
That's the phrase used, yeah. Conquered hearts through his asceticism, dignity, sincere dedication. And they entered God's religion in droves.
When he arrived, there were only 12 Muslims from that first pledge of Aqaba.
A tiny number, really.
But within months, many, many more responded to the call.
His success was undeniable. We see this just the following Hajj season, the pilgrimage season, when Medinan Muslims sent a delegation of 70 believers, men and women, back to Mecca.
Led by Musab himself.
Led by Musab himself, to meet the Prophet. His shrewdness and excellent performance proved that the messenger truly knew how to choose his people.
Musab clearly understood his role. He was a caller to God, a bearer of the straight path. Like the Prophet, his duty was simply to convey the message.
He stayed as a guest with Asad ibn Zurara, and together they visited tribes, homes, gatherings, reciting the Quran and softly proclaiming, Allah is but one God.
But he faced some situations that could have turned dangerous, right?
Oh, definitely, if not for his sharp mind and great spirit. One day, while he was preaching, he was confronted by Musab ibn Umayr.
A powerful chief.
Yes, from Bani Abd al-Ashal in Medina. Musab approached them with a spear, enraged that they were corrupting his people's religion, inviting them to abandon their gods, speaking of one God they'd never known.
The Muslims present must have been fearful.
Understandably so. This is where Musab's unique approach truly shines.
What did he do?
Well, Musab stood before them agitated, addressing Musab and Asad. What brings you to our neighborhood, corrupting our weak ones? Leave us if you don't want to lose your lives.
Intense.
Very. But Musab, with the calmness and strength of the sea, the source says, and the cheerful, gentle demeanor of dawn, just brightened his face. His good words flowed. No anger, no defensiveness.
Just calm.
Complete calm. His brilliant and simple invitation to Asad was just, won't you sit and listen? If you like our matter, accept it. If you dislike it, we will refrain from what you dislike.
That's an incredibly serene and respectful approach, especially facing a spear. How can that be so effective?
It speaks to the power of conviction coupled with immense wisdom, I think. Musab wasn't arguing, he was inviting. He wasn't demanding, he offered a choice.
Right.
By de-escalating, he gave Musab, who was an intelligent man, the space to listen rationally, not just react emotionally. His peaceful presence and confident yet gentle offer created this rare opportunity for genuine understanding. Aggression would have just hardened hearts.
And it worked.
It did. Musab, being intelligent and discerning, agreed. He dropped his spear, sat down, acknowledged Musab had been fair.
Then what happened?
Musab recited the Quran, and the effect was immediate, transformative. Musab's face began to brighten and shine, changing with each word.
Just from listening.
Just from listening. Musab had barely finished speaking when Musab exclaimed, "How beautiful and true is this saying? How does one do if they want to enter this religion?"
Wow. Instant conversion.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The Muslims present responded with this resounding cry, Allahu Akbar, that
Yeah.
seemed to shake the earth. Musab told him he purifies his clothes and his body and testifies that there is no God but Allah.
And did he?
Musab left them for a short while, returned with pure water dripping from his hair, stood, and declared, "There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah."
Incredible. And the impact.
News of Musab's conversion spread like wildfire. Then Sa'd ibn Mu'adh came, listened to Musab, was convinced, accepted Islam.
Another major leader.
Exactly. Then Sa'd ibn Ubadah followed suit. With their conversion, the blessing was complete, as the source says. The people of Medina started questioning each other. If you said Sa'd ibn Mu'adh and Sa'd ibn Ubadah have accepted Islam, why are we lagging behind?
So they flocked to Musab.
They did. Let's go to Musab and believe with him, they said, for they say truth comes from between his lips. Islam's first ambassador had succeeded remarkably.
Okay, now let's fast forward through the years to the Battle of Uhud. A critical moment. Quraysh seeking revenge after Badr.
A terrifying battle. The Prophet chose Musab to carry the Muslim banner, acknowledging his worthiness.
And the fighting intensified. There was a critical turning point.
Yes, when the Muslim archers disobeyed the Prophet's orders, they abandoned their position on the mountain, seeing the polytheists retreating.
A fatal mistake.
It turned a potential victory into near defeat. The Quraysh cavalry attacked from the mountaintop, striking them unawares. When the enemy saw the chaos, they focused their efforts on reaching the Prophet directly.
And this is where Musab ibn Umayr's ultimate sacrifice comes into focus.
Instantly, he realized the treacherous danger to the Prophet. He raised the banner high, roared Allahu Akbar like a lion, moved about, leaping. His sole concern was drawing the enemy's attention to himself, distract them from the Prophet.
He became a shield.
He effectively transformed himself into an entire army, fighting alone as if he were a vast surging force. One hand held the banner, the other struck with youthful vigor. But the enemy swarmed him, intending to cross over his body to reach the Prophet.
That sheer unyielding dedication. self-sacrifice.
Absolutely. His entire focus was protecting the Prophet, even at the cost of his own life. This wasn't strategic retreat, it was complete devotion.
Let an eyewitness describe the final scene. Ibn Sa'd recounts.
Yes, he says Musab carried the banner on the day of Uhud, and when the Muslims wavered, Musab stood firm. Then Ibn Qamiya, a horseman, came forward and struck Musab's right hand, cutting it off.
His right hand. Gone.
But Musab continued to say, Muhammad is but a messenger. Messengers have passed away before him. He took the banner with his left hand and bent over it.
Incredible resolve.
Then his left hand was also severed.
Both hands.
Both hands. And he held the banner to his chest with his stumps, still repeating that verse, Muhammad is but a messenger. Messengers have passed away before him.
My goodness.
Finally, Ibn Qamiya charged him a third time with his spear, piercing him. The spear broke, Musab fell, and the banner fell with him.
Musab, the jewel of martyrdom, fell after engaging in this great heroic battle of devotion.
He might have thought that if he fell, the path to the Prophet would be clear for the killers. Yet he consoled himself concerning the Prophet, repeating with every sword blow, Muhammad is but a messenger.
And that very verse, spoken by Musab in his final moments, would later be revealed in the Quran, echoing his dying words.
Exactly. And after the battle ended, his body was found lying face down in the earth, soaked with his blood.
Face down.
Yes, as if too humble to face the Prophet if he had suffered harm, or maybe ashamed he'd fallen, before ensuring the Prophet's safety, before fully completing his duty.
The Prophet and his companions came to inspect the battlefield, bidding farewell to the martyrs. At Musab's body, tears flowed.
Profuse, loyal tears. Khabbab ibn al-Arat recounted the burial scene. They had migrated for God, seeking his pleasure, their reward due from God. Some passed away without enjoying any reward in this world. Musab was among them.
And they found only a single worn garment to shroud him.
Just one. If they placed it over his head, his feet were exposed. If they covered his feet, his head was exposed.
A stark image, from immense privilege to such humility in death.
It really poses that question about true wealth, doesn't it? He chose spiritual fulfillment over material comfort. In death, he had almost nothing worldly. It speaks to the wealth of faith, purpose, sacrifice.
His devotion was his treasure.
Exactly. The Prophet instructed them, cover his head with it and cover his feet with ikar plants, that fragrant grass.
Even amidst the Prophet's deep grief over his uncle Hamza's death and mutilation.
And the loss of so many companions.
He still made a profound point of standing by Musab's body, bidding him farewell, mourning him.
He truly did. The Prophet stood by Musab and said, his eyes glowing with light, tenderness, loyalty, among the believers are men who have been true to their covenant with Allah.
Quoting the Quran.
Yes. Then he sorrowfully looked at the tattered shroud and said, I saw you in Mecca, and no one had softer clothes or more beautiful hair than you. And here you are, disheveled in a garment.
What a powerful testament. And his words didn't stop there.
No, he then called out, his gaze encompassing the entire battlefield, all of Musab's companions. Indeed, the messenger of Allah bears witness that you are martyrs with Allah on the day of resurrection.
Wow.
And he turned to his living companions and said, O people, visit them, come to them, greet them, for by the one in whose hand is my soul, no Muslim will greet them until the day of resurrection, except that they will return the greeting.
A profound promise, cementing their place.
Absolutely, in history and in spiritual memory.
So what does this all mean for us? Musab ibn Umayr's journey is just a powerful testament to radical personal transformation, unshakable conviction, selfless devotion.
Absolutely. From the pinnacle of luxury, he embraced hardship for his faith, became Islam's first incredibly successful ambassador.
And ultimately a martyr who prioritized the Prophet's safety above his own life.
His story illustrates how true leadership is often found not in outward status or wealth, but in that profound inner conviction, that diplomatic wisdom and unwavering commitment.
It reminds us of the impact one individual's choices can have.
And how serenity, respect, and clear purpose can achieve what force often cannot.
So a final thought for our listeners. How might the radical transformation and unwavering conviction of a single individual, even one from immense privilege like Musab, fundamentally alter the course of history?
Or perhaps what aspects of Musab's uniquely persuasive and diplomatic approach, that calm invitation, that respect, even in hostility, might still resonate in our current world, especially with, all the diverse beliefs and information overload we face today.
Something to definitely reflect on. Thank you for joining us on this